On to the Crusaders for the first time. Big players out. I've got Ioane Moananu, and I've also got Matt Mould, Sam Matenga out. We've got Quinton Strange has left after, I think, probably a season that I expected that maybe he was going to come into his own, to be honest. Tom Christie, who managed to wrestle back the 7 jersey last year, is gone. Mitch Drummond has retired. Fletcher Anderson overplaying in the Scarlets now and is absolutely killing it over there by all accounts. James O'Connor obviously gone to Leicester Tigers, and Levi Aumua has gone to Japan to play for the Cannon Eagles.
Can I just say for a moment, I'm Cargie, mate. This is a proud dad moment for me here. You just said big loss for Tom Christie, a little white man. Like, you used to talk shit about him. You're growing.
Well, mate, when one player makes half the tackles of the entire team, it is a big loss. Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
I think one of just in the NPC, the last season, the NPC he was playing. I forget which club he was playing for, but I think he topped tackles in the NPC last season has been. So he was he's a workhorse. You just wouldn't find him in my fantasy team. Put it that way,
Can you run through the players in, mate?
I can. Big players in. We've got. There is no player bigger than Lester Fainganuku coming home. Oh, God, I can't wait to see him play. And he's the real big question.
I think
we've been toying a lot with whether he was going to be we're going to list him as a fantasy centre or outside back. We've ended up with outside back, I believe, because that's where we still see him playing. But, God, I can't wait to watch him again. He was one of my faves for many years. Other big players in, Will Tucker, come across from Japan. He's come in as a replacement for Scott Barrett. Maloney Kunawave, you heard me talk about him in the Hot Shoot podcast. He's absolutely electric. New Zealand under 20s just tore it up for the Tasman Marcos, even though they didn't make it through the finals this year. Anyone else worth mentioning? Big players in?
Liam Jack, I think Harry touched on him in the Hot Shit, just because of his relatives.
The gene pool, yep.
There could be more than that, but yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons we're mentioning him.
They've got all the other guys that come through the academy. Manu Maiua Letiu, the front rower. They've got Louis Chapman from the academy as a scrum half. James White coming across as a fly half. And Toby Bell, the fly half / centre as well.
True, and if we know anything, you should probably pay attention to fly halves that come from the Canterbury academy. You know what I mean? They seem to end up being pretty good.
Pay attention to any of them. It's the Crusaders. Let's bounce into the starting 15 because we're going through our individual lineups. In terms of what we all did, front row exactly the same. Tamati Williams, Cody Taylor, Fletcher Newell, unchanged between the lot of us, and we've all done the same. George Bell, George Bauer, and Seb Calder on the bench too.
Yep. Harry, who have we got for the locks?
Can you guys see the screen at the moment?
No, I cannot.
I can see you guys. I'll keep running through it if you like. So, Antonio Shalfoon and Jamie Hanna. Again, we've all agreed on that, and Will Tucker coming in to fill that bench void. When we roll into the back row, again, just not many changes. A couple of changes here on the bench. But we've all got Cullen Grace at 6, Ethan Blackadder at 7, Christian Leo Willie at number 8. And for Harry, he's got Dominic Gardiner. Cargie's got Xavier Saifoloi, and I have Corey Kello on the bench. That's
it. Despite the Crusaders having so much depth everywhere, the starting team really does write itself.
Yep.
I can save you a lot of time by saying that all of us have the entirely the same backline.
And entirely same...
Except for the bench. We do have some bench different. We only got one. Sorry, there's one difference in our entire backline that we think is the top starting 23, which is that you've both gone for Marcus Springer on your bench in your 22 jersey, and I've gone for Chafiaki.
Yeah, look, I think ultimately we all agree what their grand final starting team is going to be, but how they use them through the season is what's more interesting. We talked about Fainganuku's opportunity to play in the centres this year. Sebu Reece has done a little bit of that as well. You've got David Avili that can play anywhere, but probably doesn't move around as much. But they've also got options, so many options that can sub in, and I think you're going to see a heavy rotation. So, Dallas McLeod's obviously had a big impact both at outside centre and on the wing as well. They've got fly half options for days with Taha Kamara coming through as well. You mentioned Chafeaki. Johnny McNichol came back and was very good in the time he got. Kunawave is one of their big signings. There's so many options for rotation, and I think that's the interesting thing about the Crusaders rather than, what's their number one team. And interestingly enough, talking about number one team, I do believe Scott Barrett will be back for that grand final day, so poor old Antonio Chalfoun will probably drop out. Do we agree? Or do we think Jamie Hannah? What do you think?
Oh, I think it's hard to know. I mean, Jeremy Hanna has really come on, but sorry, I do realise for obviously we've been going through the video for our YouTube watchers, but for the podcast listeners, we actually do need to name our top backline. I just said they're all the same, but so very quickly we've got Noah Hotham and Rivez Raihana in at 9 and 10. We've all said Lester Fainganuku in 11, David Havili 12, Braden Enor at 13, Sever Reese 14, and Will Jordan at 15. So pretty good sounding team, if you ask me.
Kyle Preston, another one at 9. I think on the we talked previously on the Rev, he asked us a question: which halfbacks or what positions do you double up on? I mean, Noah Hotham's the number one, but if I'm having Noah Hotham, I'm also having Kyle Preston. Because if Kyle Preston starts, he is also an absolute weapon, and we know the Crusaders in the past have subbed Noah Hotham when he should be number one. And he's been in and out and stuff. They might continue that rotation. And to hold both of those, they're both going to be absolute freaks if they're starting.
Probably worth mentioning as well, considering it's been the trend, that the positions in fantasy footy that we generally look to carry two from the one team are generally those specialist positions like hooker, scrum half and fly half. It doesn't really make as much sense in the other positions. It can still work. Like, I think Aiden Ross, Ollie Norris was a double that I carried a bit last year. But definitely mainly done in those specialist positions.
Absolutely. Yep. Cool. All right. Well, let's injuries. We've already kind of touched on that, but Harry, Scotty Barrett.
Yeah, so he's got a sabbatical very similar to Cody Taylor from last year. So they said it's still to be worked out exactly when he comes back, but they're thinking sometime in May. So basically, I think he's just going to roll in for finals, maybe play 1 or 2 warm-up games or something like that. You won't see him until the very pointy end of the season, that's for sure.
Yep, sweet. And sorry, I should have said injuries or players not here, or elsewhere. Cool. All right, Nels, do you want to take us through stocks are rising for the Crusaders? I mean, just the entire team again, or no, anyone specifically?
They can't keep rising forever. Look, we've put him down Braden Enor. Braden Enor, we know is a very quality player, and at times he's been hampered through injury. He's been absolute weapon at times, and then we've had a couple of years where maybe we haven't seen him as good as we think his potential is, but he started to kind of find a bit of form again, I suppose, last year. If we look at his stats last year, fantasy-wise, he wasn't that good. If you look at him, he had 2 80-minute matches, but I think the largest points he got across the whole season, he had 2 30s, he had a bunch of 20s, and they're all starts and a negative and things. So for me, he is someone that has a much higher potential than what that is. We've also got Taha Kamara with no James O'Connor, so he's another guy that's going to get more minutes and should be trusted to run out a few more times too.
Yeah, and then the other one I thought was, I think Chalfoun ended up playing the back end of the bulk of the minutes with Doggerel Barrett at the end of last season. So I think Jamie Hannah back healthy, no Scott Barrett for the bulk of the season. I think he's going to come into his own, and he's a very exciting player when he's at his best. I'm a big fan of his, so I think it's going to be stocks rising for him too.
Yep.
Perfect. Stocks are falling. The only thing we can really think of is that, they've got one extra absolute gun outside back. So with Lester Fainganuku coming back, last year was kind of interesting because you had Will Jordan, Sever Reese locked in. And then it was a bit of a, with the initial draft, a bit of a roll of the dice. We all thought Macca Springer might start and hold that jersey the whole year. Looks like it was Chafeaki for a considerable amount of time last year. But now with Lester Fainganuku back in, I mean, if it was me, I'd be starting the 3 of them week in, week out, and till one of them gets injured. But yes, so anyway, we'll see some more rotation. Lester Fainganuku may come in and play some 13, but I think it's certainly going to be a bit tougher for Macca Springer and Chafeaki this year.
Yeah, and the other one I had was Dallas McLeod for kind of similar reasons. He's got a lot of starting time when Brad Nettle was injured. It seemed that Ennell really did make that jersey his own in the back end of 2025. And then also because Lester Fanganuku can actually sub into the centres, you don't really need to carry one on your bench. And then as good as McLeod was on the wing, you have got so many good lightning options out wide. So I think it's going to be hard for him to find his point of difference that gives him a spot.
I mean, really, the only thing he can do is somehow leapfrog Ennell. You know, like if he doesn't leapfrog Ennell, he's not getting much game time. He's just getting some rotation. So he'd have to have a pretty cracker season. And, I mean, it's definitely possible. I think McLeod is quite a quality player. That's it for me, I think, from the Crusaders, boys. Did you guys have anything else before we jump into the Landers?
Was any Smokies, guys? We can never get away from the Smokies.
Smokies Kunawave then. Boom, I'll chuck him out there. No, he's unlikely to get any game time for all the reasons we've just mentioned, but if he does, you never know.
Xavier Saifoloi. I mean, you talked about hot shit, and you're not talking about as a Smoky, mate.
Yeah, well, yes, absolutely. I mean, look, you get one injury to one of those back rowers. Tom Christie's gone, so if Cullen Gray, any of them get an injury, Saifaloi's getting big game time, and this could be his big year to develop. So thank you for getting me back on track, Nelson. That's good.
No problem, mate. That's what I'm here for. I think that's... Yeah.
The only last point to say before we move on to the Highlanders is, as you might not be able to tell this in the podcast, but if you're watching the video, you can certainly tell that we're now recording this a few days later than the first couple of teams. But, mate, do we just see Razor Robertson come back and coach the Crusaders this year? Does he just walk back and do his job, or what happens?
I was thinking the same thing. Surely.
Huge.
This is too soon, mate. Too soon.
What do you mean? I literally, see you, Penny. See you later, mate.
Oh, mate, Penny let's be honest, we talked shit about Penny 2 years ago, but last year he did all right. So I don't know.
I think you do all right if you inherited that team. You know what I mean? I don't know how it's possible to do as poorly as he did. But anyway,
I did have one other Smoky, guys, and it was I mentioned his name before, James White. Young 10, as we said, any Crusaders 10, keep your eyes open on how they're going. But he was the fly half, I think, for the NPC for Christchurch as well, and playing 80 minutes week in, week out kind of thing. So I think anyone that can do that at such a young age is obviously a prospect. And, you know, I think Taha Kamara has really struggled to lock down a jersey at the moment. Rivez Rayana maybe a little bit more successful last year, but I still don't think that 10 jersey is an absolute lock for anyone, even if Rayana is the incumbent. So yeah, if you have a Smoky, maybe a few minutes.
I'm not like this. Obviously, we did this prep way earlier than right now. But if you type James White rugby into Google, there is one that played for the Box, and he was born in 1911.
That's him.
So I'm guessing this guy could be different.
He's not as young as I thought he was.
A reincarnation.
Yeah, he might be. Might be pretty small.
Last player in moving on with the Smokies, it was just Aki Tuivalala. Definitely ruin that name. Harry, you can hit the sound effect if you want. But just we said there's such depth of outside backs.
I do want.
Centres, not as much. Obviously, after Braden Ennor, we've got Dallas McLeod, but he could be in there with a shot.
But I think we just found our new butchered name that sounded fun.
Do you want to correct it for me?
Tuivalala.
There we go. Perfect. That sounded great. But yeah, anyway, could we see him, get a shot in the centres in a 13? I don't know. But he's obviously a youngster, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. You never know. But he's just got loads of people that can play in front of him. But he looks like he has the goods as a young 21-year-old.